Right in the middle of a class, Hansu Kang and his classmates were suddenly whisked away to another world. They had been summoned by a goddess to rescue this new realm from the demon lord and his terrifying monster army. She offered everyone superpowers, a chance to save countless innocents, and a guaranteed trip home once the demon lord was beaten. However, not everyone accepted these terms. Though the others agreed, Hansu firmly demanded to be sent home immediately, refusing anything the goddess offered. Surprisingly, the goddess accepted his refusal and even asked if any of the weaker ones wanted to join him in leaving right away. Since Hansu was a loner and no one else wanted to go, he rushed alone toward the portal home. This is where things took an unexpected turn. Instead of returning home, the portal spat him out in a completely foreign place, and the situation immediately became much crazier. He saw enraged, beast-like creatures enslaving an elf woman, and now all of them had their eyes fixed on him. Their malicious intent was clear, causing Hansu to freeze in panic. Realizing he was completely doomed, he did the only sensible thing in that insane situation. He ran as fast as he could, knowing that if he didn't, he was utterly finished. Meanwhile, the rest of the students were teleported to the sanctuary city. Proglonia, the saintess of the Great Temple, welcomed the heroes who had arrived in this fantasy dimension. Several other gods were also present. She introduced herself, explaining that she had been expecting them following the goddess's oracle. The saintess informed the students about another god, Alzus, the swordmaster and prince of the Swordmaster Kingdom, who would be their fencing instructor. Many girls were excited and captivated by his handsome looks. Suddenly, the saintess inquired about the prince's whereabouts. Before she could finish, Princess Athena arrived, exclaiming that she had overslept after drinking too much. The saintess commented that Princess Athena's honesty was both a virtue and a flaw, suggesting she shouldn't mention the latter part. Just then, the princess suddenly passed out, much to the surprise of the heroes, some of whom praised her beauty. Athena Archmason, the princess of the Archmason Kingdom, was introduced as the heroes' magic instructor, and the saintess confirmed that both Princess Athena and Prince Alzus would be assisting. At that moment, Hang Wu, who had opened his status window and shared the information with the others, stated that they would experience similar situations as they leveled up and gained better skills. He was intently watching his own status window, trying to figure it out. He had received the hero's blessing, which automatically translated languages, viewing it as a powerful, cheat-like ability. However, he was concerned that many rivals had received the same blessing. As he watched, Choi Kang-min asked the saintess why the goddess had instructed them to receive a god's blessing and how they could do it. She explained that to receive one, a person must earn the favor of a god, as each one has specific criteria. Suddenly, everyone was alerted that a god was scrutinizing the heroes' bodies with a wicked smile. Everyone was shocked. The saintess explained that while each god has their own standards, they are all looking for the person who will defeat the great demon king. She assured them that the gods were indeed watching, but warned that their attention would not last forever, wishing them the best of luck. One of the students asked if it was possible for anyone to receive a blessing. The saintess smiled and dismissed the idea, stating she had no interest in dealing with garbage, making the students uncomfortable. Their adventure in this fantasy world, full of high hopes and dreams, was about to begin. At the same time, elsewhere, Hansu was being chased by monsters. He was completely exhausted and had to stop to catch his breath. Suddenly, the monsters shot an arrow at him and began closing in, intending to eat him. Hansu concluded that there was no need for complex thought. Creatures like these simply do not exist on Earth. He started to believe the goddess had tricked him and never actually meant to send him home. He resumed running, telling himself that if this was a fantasy world, some kind of miracle should appear to save him. Just then, a status window popped up right in front of him. He was curious as to why the hero category was also labeled with curse. He suspected this was a malicious attempt to get rid of him and remained in disbelief about receiving such a punishment. He noticed the auto-translation feature and realized he might be able to communicate with the monsters. He shouted at them, asking to discuss the situation. The monsters yelled back, surprised that their food was talking. Hansu mumbled that he just wanted to see his parents and begged for mercy. Suddenly, an arrow struck his leg. He saw numerous fairies firing arrows at the monsters. Thinking a battle had broken out between these fantasy creatures, he seized the chance to flee. Overwhelmed by the pain, he swore he would never pray to the goddess again. Meanwhile, a god was observing him. Hansu was suddenly notified that a specific god was watching him. He decided he would rather die than pray to a god. Despite this, a specific god reached out to him. Without understanding what was happening, Hansu begged to be saved. He felt his body moving faster than his mind could process, responding to an unknown voice. He received a notification that the god was asking why he was alone. Hansu was about to answer but hesitated, realizing he couldn't tell the full truth. He wondered if the voice belonged to the same goddess or one of her allies. Desperate, he pleaded for salvation, asking through his pain if any other god would intervene. He was notified that a particular god was skeptical, muttering that it was unlikely any other god was present, adding that it was probably good the others were absent. In pain, Hansu asked if the god was an outsider. The god was unfamiliar with the term. Hansu realized he had chosen his words poorly, thinking that in his language it meant someone outside of social circles. Fearing that explaining it might bring a curse again, he instead said that an outsider was like a lonely wolf wandering the wilderness. He was then informed that the god liked this definition. Relieved, Hansu asked to be saved once more. After a moment, the god asked if Hansu was truly an outsider. Hansu lied, claiming he was one too, explaining that his classmates were summoned to the temple while he was left behind. The god seemed confused by this story. Hansu insisted it was common sense for one outsider to help another, but the god pointed out that this might not apply since he was a god. After a moment of thought, the god decided to help the poor outsider. Using their power, the god magically removed the arrow from Hansu's leg. Hansu felt the intense pain vanish completely, and his body suddenly felt lighter. Grateful, he thanked the god. He then noticed his status window, which now displayed outsider next to blessing. Curiously, he read that something terrible would happen if the lonely wolf left the wilderness. He was confused by this message. Hansu turned to the god and asked if he would be judged if he stopped being an outsider and became an insider. The god responded by emphasizing that they would only help an outsider. At that moment, the monster started watching him as he ran away. Hansu resumed his race for his life, feeling the effect of a new message that stated he was exempt from all status effects except death, thanks to the god's blessing. His fatigue had vanished, and he no longer felt tired. The monsters pursuing Hansu began to tire and slow down. One of them threw a rock at him, but it missed, and he kept running. He silently thanked the god, feeling completely refreshed. He then received another notification from the god, assuring him that a mere rock wouldn't kill him. Hansu expressed his thanks. Finally, he reached the edge of a cliff. As the prior message had hinted, he realized that all status effects, except death, would reset. He figured that as long as he wasn't killed instantly, even critical wounds would heal. In a moment of doubt, he asked the god if he would survive a fall from the cliff. The god immediately replied, informing him the height would be fatal. Worry consumed Hansu. With the monsters closing in, cornered between the cliff and his pursuers, Hansu decided to act. He shouted a proposal to the monsters, acknowledging their hunger but pointing out there wasn't enough of him to share. Instead, he offered a deal. Whoever caught him first could enjoy his delicious meat. The monsters, excited by the idea of being the first to catch him, eagerly rushed toward him. Hansu noted their fixation on his meat and mused that while he didn't mind the attention, they were clearly obsessed. With a smile, he chose to drop off the cliff, dragging the monsters in his chase. After a while, he opened his eyes and realized he wasn't dead. His body felt as if it had been crushed, but he thought that might just be his imagination. Slowly, he got up, surprised to be alive. A notification then appeared, informing him that a particular god was impressed by the outsider's incredible survival ability. Just as he was processing this, one of the monsters approached, intending to devour him. Hansu checked the creature's status window, a blue moon butcher, and figured his survival, despite having no prior blessings, had made him an intriguing target. In many fantasy games, characters level up by gaining experience from defeating powerful foes, and higher-level enemies offer more experience points, making them valuable to beat. Hansu grabbed a nearby stone, used it to strike the monster, and successfully killed it. Meanwhile, back with the students, the Saintess informed them that leveling up and receiving blessings were two key ways to become stronger. One could level up by gaining experience from defeating beings that possessed status windows, or they could earn blessings directly from the gods. Choi Kangmin, confident in his abilities, immediately chose to pray to the gods for a blessing to improve his strength. Just as he did, the Saintess interrupted, reminding the students that receiving a blessing didn't end the process. The gods would be constantly watching them, monitoring their actions. Yura raised her hand, confused, and asked if this meant the gods would watch them all day, every day. The Saintess confirmed with a nod. Some students felt self-conscious, thinking the gods might be observing them during private moments, such as bathing or using the restroom. The Saintess quickly addressed their concerns, clarifying that gods are not human beings and asking them not to judge the deities by human standards. Some gods, speaking through the status windows, assured Yura that they had no interest in watching such mundane activities. Suddenly, Jang Miok, known as Miok, I, was chosen by the gods. The gods made it clear they would grant better blessings to those they found interesting. Several gods expressed admiration for her actions, and as a result, she received a blessing. She smiled with happiness, though the students wondered what she would do with her new power. The blessing immediately became apparent as a power called charm manifested, causing Miyoke's body to emit an attractive fragrance that constantly increased the chance of attracting the opposite gender. However, the saintess quickly intervened, instructing her to stop using the charm blessing. Miyoke instantly protested, admitting she did not know how to stop the effect. At that moment, a certain innocent goddess expressed disapproval of the impure nature of such a blessing. The saintess shook her head, recognizing it was too late, as Miyake would now face the consequences of her actions. The students were surprised by this turn of events. The saintess then explained that while gods can grant blessings, they also have the power to cast curses on heroes they find undesirable. A shocked Miyake confessed she didn't know about this possibility. The saintess clarified that she was about to inform them of this crucial detail. As the punishment began to take effect, Miyake cried out in pain and apologized, but the saintess explained that once a hero has received a blessing or curse, it will remain with them until death. Furthermore, the effects will become stronger as their rank increases, and their level will never decrease once it has been raised. Miyoke, deeply worried, expressed concern over how painful the curse was even at her current low rank, fearing that at higher levels the pain could become unbearable or even fatal. Athena approached her, offering words of comfort and reassurance. She told Miyoke not to give up, explaining that blessings could help counteract the effects of curses. As Miyake levels up and strengthens her body and mind, the pain will gradually lessen. Meanwhile, Hansu was still in the jungle, pondering why his level hadn't increased despite killing several monsters. He suspected it might be due to a curse or because leveling up was simply much harder in this world. After some time, he contacted the god for any useful information. The god, with their usual detached attitude, simply instructed Hansu to refer to them as the outsider god. Hansu, slightly frustrated by the god's lack of helpful guidance, decided to comply and asked once more. The god gave a short answer, confirming that his suspicion was correct. Hansu felt that the god, aside from the initial blessing, was not very helpful. Despite this, he decided to hold on to the blessing, appreciating the single benefit it provided. Even though he had been wandering the jungle for hours, he noticed he felt no thirst, hunger, or even tiredness. Suddenly, Hansu sensed some monsters approaching his location. He hid behind a tree, reasoning that encountering a person here could spell trouble, as this land might be overrun by monsters and devoid of any other humans. At that moment, a particular god sent him a message, informing him that an outsider without powers will die peacefully if he cuts himself. Hansu wondered about the god's cryptic statement but chose to remain cautious. The monsters, sensing the smell of blood, were disoriented and couldn't determine which direction to go. Hansu, feeling more energetic and now equipped with a knife that once belonged to the Blue Moon Butcher, contemplated his next move. The blade was sharp and he was ready to use it. The god, meanwhile, offered prayers of support, assuring him he would not meet an early death. Observing the nearby vines, Hansu decided to cut them. As he worked, he felt the presence of the god watching him with blurred eyes. He tied the knife securely into an improvised pocket before turning to the god and asking if they were familiar with centrifugal force. Using the vine, Hansu tied a stone to it and began swinging it, preparing to show the monsters the power of science. He swung it, and although he felt the force might drag him down and make him fall, he held his ground. Every time the blessing activated, his legs stopped shaking and his breathing stabilized. With newfound confidence, Hansu hurled the vine at the monsters, striking them with the stone, all while improving his control over the outsider's blessing. Hansu quickly understood that he no longer needed to focus on minor issues like small cuts or fatigue. As long as he avoided an instant, fatal blow, the blessing would automatically heal him. This insight allowed him to keep fighting fearlessly, constantly on the brink of death. One by one, he struck down the monsters. However, Hansu started to notice their cunning tactics. They were attempting to wear him down by dragging him into prolonged battles. These creatures were nastier and smarter than he initially thought. Still, he persevered, hitting them relentlessly. At one point, a monster tried to grab him from behind, but Hansu was ready. He swung the stone and hit it hard, declaring they would receive the same treatment as before. After a long battle, Hansu finally stood victorious, having defeated all the monsters. He approached the last one and demanded to know where humans lived. The creature reluctantly pointed in the direction of the human settlement. Hansu then asked about the monster species, to which the gnoll replied they were known as gnolls. Without hesitation, Hansu killed the creature with a final strike of the stone. He reflected that if the monsters had been truthful with him, he might have spared their lives, but he had never promised such mercy. Meanwhile, at the temple, Prince Alzus informed the heroes that official training would start the following day. He explained that he would teach swordsmanship, while Princess Athena would handle magic training, adding that the heroes were free to choose the path they desired. Suddenly, Choi raised his hand, expressing his wish to enroll in both training sessions. Prince Alzus acknowledged the request, but warned that both lessons were demanding and might be too much for him to handle. Hangwoo then questioned the prince, asking if it would be acceptable for him to skip the lessons completely. Prince Alzus assured him he was free to make his own choices. Hangwoo, seeking more freedom, asked if it would be possible to leave the temple during his free time. The prince confirmed he was welcome to do so. The next day, Prince Alzus gathered the heroes and directed those who wished to follow a knight's path to follow him, assuring them they could change their minds later if the path didn't suit them. For those interested in learning magic, he instructed them to wait, as Princess Athena had not yet arrived. While preparing, the heroes checked their status windows. Hangwoo noticed a special inscription before his blessing, indicating he was the most chosen person in the world. This blessing, he realized, was unique to him and could only be seen and experienced by him. Filled with joy, Hangwoo mused that Choi, despite his arrogance, remained oblivious to the true meaning of his status. Later, outside the temple, Hangwoo reflected on the situation and concluded that if someone like Choi had simply done his best, he would have at least attained an A-rank position, rivaling the main character. After a while, Hangwoo was in the central square of Proglonia City. He thought he had come to the right place. He walked into the Mercenary Guild to begin his fantasy story. There were many fighters there. The receptionist greeted him and asked why he was there. He replied that he wanted to register as a mercenary. Suddenly, a girl approached him and explained to Hangwoo that this was not the place for someone as inexperienced as him. She urged him to stop talking nonsense and go back to his hometown, saying she had seen many impulsive boys like him become mercenaries and die. Meanwhile, Hangwoo believed this was an effect of his blessing, the main character's ability increase. The girl approached him and asked if he was listening. Hangwoo thought this beautiful, pushy mercenary woman was a high-ranking princess or noble in disguise. He smiled and thought this must be the protagonist's destiny. Hangwoo felt certain this was the effect of a special blessing. Suddenly, he insisted that he wasn't going to leave and that the girl should join him if she was truly concerned. He went on to say that judging people by their appearance was a poor habit, something he was sure she had experienced herself many times. The girl smiled and replied that he understood her well. Hangwoo was delighted, thinking he was exceptional in this new world. After that, he informed the girl that while he couldn't share much, he had been chosen. Although he would have struggled to talk so smoothly with a beauty like her on Earth, in this world, he was a hero who was about to leave this realm behind. Suddenly, the girl wondered how such chosen skills were acquired. He replied that she would eventually realize what the main character's greatest advantage was. Meanwhile, back in the jungle, a monster assured Hansu it wasn't lying. The human village was indeed to the west. Hansu thanked it for the information and then struck it with the stone. Afterward, he mused that these gnolls were unexpectedly honest. They were so crude that anyone could tell when they were lying. Hansu thought he didn't know the exact distance to the human village, but he decided to confirm it by asking a few more gnolls to be absolutely sure. He also realized that his desperate struggle with the gnolls had quickly turned into a brief hunt. As he defeated more of them, he had transformed from prey into an experienced hunter overnight. He was happy. Hansu had suffered many serious wounds while learning to hunt, but he quickly adapted to fighting thanks to the outsider's blessing. His clothes were torn from fighting the monsters. He was thrilled that he hadn't gone insane, even after being critically injured so many times. Soon, he would meet the natives of this fantasy world in the human village. The god muttered, "Sorry," and when Hansu asked if the god wanted him to die, the god replied that they didn't care what happened to him. Suddenly, a monster attacked him again, but he defended himself with the butcher's knife. Hansu was concerned that there seemed to be no end to these gnolls. No matter how many he killed, they kept coming. He fought them, repeatedly stabbing them with the knife. Hansu was now annoyed because he wasn't leveling up at all, thinking he must have killed dozens of gnolls who had higher levels than him, so it shouldn't be a problem. He received a message that a specific god was getting restless. After beating the monsters once more, he could hear the language of a friendly-sounding race that he couldn't understand. He began to look around carefully, considering they were the ones who had shot arrows at a pitiful person who was being chased by a carnivorous plant earlier. Their definition of friendly might be different from his own. He suddenly saw some sword fighters and a woman, all human. He figured they might be mercenaries. The woman immediately threw a weapon at Hansu upon seeing him. Realizing they were all about to attack, he quickly stated that he was only looking for a human village. He concealed his dagger and sat down, signaling his surrender, saying he was against violence. Hansu knew they couldn't speak to each other, but humans communicate through more than just words. Body language showing an inclination to avoid conflict and a cordial tone should put the other person at ease. He thought they couldn't have a complicated conversation this way, but the essential message should get across. However, the woman prepared to shoot an arrow at him. Hansu quickly stopped her, assuring her that the otherworlder wouldn't bite and that he was friendly to this new world. The mercenaries finally decided not to kill him. After a while, Hansu found himself traveling with them through the dense forest. The woman and man tried to talk to him with serious expressions, but their words were foreign to Hansu. He could use gestures to at least let them know his name, but other than that, he couldn't understand a single word. It didn't help that foreign languages were always the subject that dragged down his grades. Hansu thought it was a relief that he had met some friendly people. At least these people didn't start shooting arrows at him, unlike the fairies, and he also didn't have to worry as much about running into monsters. Hansu could not see these people's status windows, but he was certain that fully armed mercenaries would be more powerful than a level 1 person. The god assured Hansu that he was not acting like an outsider anymore, but Hansu ignored it. A particular god pleaded with him not to talk to them indifferently. Hansu replied that it was normal to speak more casually when someone became closer to you. Hansu reflected that he had managed to meet people, but he could still only have conversations with the gods. However, through the use of body language, he had figured out these people's names. The older, hairy man was Gary, whom he presumed was the group's leader. Gary carried a giant sword without showing a hint of fatigue, making Hansu believe he was very strong. Suddenly, another man called out and hugged him. His name was Cole. Cole was smaller than Gary, but had a muscular, seasoned body and laughed often. He wore a long sword on each hip. The lady was named Misa. She was the group's ranged attacker and often used a giant steel crossbow. Due to its size, Hansu thought her main objective must be fighting people. She pointed her finger in a certain direction. Hansu realized she wanted to show him something. He saw smoke in the distance. The smoke was not from a wildfire. It appeared to be chimney smoke coming from a house. Hansu was happy to have found the place where people lived. Suddenly, he received a notification that a particular god was looking at the bold outsider with displeasure. Hansu countered that he was only pretending to get along to escape this forest. Suddenly, everyone heard a noise. Many monsters were approaching. Hansu was surprised to see the monsters and was ready to fight them, but Cole, Gary, and Misa moved forward to battle the creatures. They fought the demons using their swords, while Misa aimed her arrow at the gnolls. Suddenly, a gnoll came to attack Misa, but Hansu saved her from the monster, which made a particular god feel uneasy. The gnoll seemed larger than usual. Hansu explained to the outsider god to watch this, as humans are social animals, and he needed help from these people. A certain god replied that it was none of their business. Meanwhile, the gnoll was about to attack Hansu, but he saved himself by moving at lightning speed. He killed the gnoll with the knife. The gnoll fell to the ground. Hansu knew they were after him. After a while, they defeated all the gnolls. Hansu thanked them, saying he would have been in trouble if they hadn't been with him, but they all stared at him with serious expressions. Suddenly, Misa fired an arrow at Hansu, hitting him in the right shoulder. He fell down afterward. The mercenaries stood around Hansu's lifeless body. Cole expressed admiration for Misa's ideas, saying their plan had been interrupted because of the gnolls. However, Misa saw it as a positive turn of events. She commented that the chaotic behavior of the gnolls had given them insight into how dangerous Hansu truly was. She admitted she had initially underestimated him, thinking someone as thin as him would be weak. However, he not only fought better than she had anticipated, but his strange foreign language also made things more problematic. Gary suggested they should stick to their original plan. Cole agreed, though he regretted the turn of events, adding that Hansu probably would have been willing to be sold into slavery. Gary, ever practical, proposed they take what they could from Hansu. He mentioned that seizing the dagger from him was their best option, as it might hold more value than they imagined. He pointed out that the intricate decoration on the dagger suggested it belonged to fairy royalty. Cole reached for Hansu's body to retrieve the dagger, only to find that Hansu was still gripping it tightly. Misa warned Cole not to let his guard down. Cole, realizing the danger, decided he needed to finish off Hansu. However, before he could act, Cole noticed Hansu's status window. 2 conditions must be met for someone to view another person's status window. Either the individual shares it willingly, or it can be seen through a special blessing. Cole, who was shocked and surprised by this unexpected development, was caught completely off guard. Just as he was processing this, Hansu stabbed him with the dagger. Gary and Misa, astonished by the sudden turn of events, watched as Cole collapsed. Hansu stood tall, seemingly unharmed. Gary, now enraged, lunged at Hansu to eliminate him, but before he could act, Hansu moved with incredible speed and struck him with the dagger. Misa, attempting to take him down with her arrows, found they had no effect. Hansu, unfazed, pulled the arrows from his body with a smile. Misa, now desperate, pleaded for her life, bowing to him as a sign of surrender. Hansu mumbled something to her, though Misa didn't understand his words, and in an instant, he killed her. Afterward, Hansu changed into her clothes, feeling incredulous about what had just happened. He reflected on how awkward it felt to think about the deadly weapons she shot at him. He shared this thought with the god, feeling that while the weapon itself might have been suitable, the fact that it came from a woman made him uncomfortable. The god, meanwhile, laughed at his discomfort. A certain god acknowledged that they respected the outsider's unusual preferences, though Hansu defended himself, clarifying that it wasn't a matter of preference. He explained that Misa was the only one with a similar build to his. Hansu also decided to take her arrows, believing they might be useful later. Meanwhile, back at the temple, Princess Athena apologized to her students for her delay, assuring them that the lesson on the nature of magic would now begin. She informed them that a long time ago, magic did not exist on the fantasy continent. The students began to whisper among themselves. Some dismissed magic as nonsense, while others argued it was purely practical, focused on real-world applications. One girl suggested that magic was merely chemistry. Yura, Bora, annoyed by the distraction, scolded the others for bothering those who were trying to concentrate. Princess Athena, seizing the moment, stated that magic was largely about talent and that familiarizing oneself with mana was essential. She admitted that she shared a dislike for unnecessary theories, emphasizing that talent is the most important factor in mastering magic. The students, intrigued by her words, asked about the origins of magic. Princess Athena paused and then explained that magic is a field where natural talent surpasses everything else. She went on to point out that talent is often determined by one's lineage, though education and connections also play a role. She urged her students never to forget these truths. Princess Athena introduced herself as Athena Archmason, the direct descendant of Sun Archmason, the 12th disciple and third husband of the founder. She proudly declared that her lineage was significant, as she carried both the bloodline and the connections that came with it. The curious heroes asked her what that meant for them. In response, Princess Athena explained that they were all connected to her through their education, and being her disciples would allow them to unlock their high potential. Yura, feeling insecure, raised her hand and asked if someone without any lineage or connections could ever become a mage. Athena confidently assured her that it was possible, but stressed that everyone starts with a strong advantage due to the connections they shared with her. Excited, Athena walked toward Yura, her enthusiasm palpable. She said that while she would explain all the details later, for now, Yura must step forward. Taking her hand, she announced that from this moment on, Yura would be her apprentice. The room fell silent, and Yura was visibly shocked. Athena further clarified that she recognized Yura as her very first apprentice. Chaewon and Choi Kong-min exchanged surprised glances, taken aback by the sudden turn of events. Princess Athena then instructed Yura to create a magical elf. Yura stood still for a moment, unsure how to proceed. After a brief pause, Athena complimented her, declaring that Yura was now a fully fledged mage. However, Yura appeared bewildered, confused by the rapid changes unfolding around her. As realization dawned, her status window updated, confirming her new title. Athena, with a small smile, admitted she forgot to mention something important. Those who become apprentices earlier in their training receive a greater transfer of talent. Yura, still processing, noted that a C-rank blessing appeared with her apprenticeship. She shared this observation, leading Athena to explain that the blessing she received was the same talent she had mentioned before. With a thoughtful look, Yura read the meaning of a mage in her status window and hesitated. She then expressed a concern to Athena, explaining that without a parent or teacher possessing the magic blessing, she doubted she could ever truly become a mage, no matter how hard she tried. Athena looked at her and asked if she now understood why talent was so crucial. Yura, nodding in understanding, confirmed that she did. Princess Athena, satisfied, acknowledged her question and offered a demonstration. She lifted a small, luminous magic ball in her hand, revealing that the founder, who eventually ascended to become the god of magic, left a blessing for future generations. This blessing was designed to help his descendants and students quickly learn the ways of magic. Athena further explained that an average mage would rely on this blessing to use magic safely and efficiently. She called this practice white magic. The students watched in awe as the display unfolded, clearly impressed by Princess Athena's mastery. Following this, Athena showed them another trick where her hands burned. The heroes were shocked to see this. She told them that her talent was always needed for magic. She informed the heroes that in her right hand was the white magic with her blessing, and in her left hand was the black magic without her blessing. Suddenly, the head maid entered, pulled Athena's cheeks and told her it looked like she forgot His Majesty's strict instructions not to use black magic. Athena responded that she only did it to make it easier for the heroes to understand. The maid replied that she would report this to the queen. Athena apologized to the maid. Suddenly, a prince also entered to heal Athena while she begged the maid not to tell the queen about the matter. On the other side, Yura was scared and apologized for asking Princess Athena such a question. Suddenly, Athena was fine and told the heroes that she was happy to know that everyone understood the danger of black magic. Some heroes asked about black magic and whether it was an evil power. She responded that black magic was not evil. Unlike the magic blessing handed down by their founder, black magic was like the magical power of nature itself. On the other side, Hansu arrived at the village. He asked the guard if he needed dry firewood to start a fire. The guard didn't understand him, but Hansu moved his hand forward and gave him some coins, signaling that he understood what the guard was saying. He reached the village, thinking that many armed people were running everywhere, perhaps because the village was near a forest with carnivorous plants. After a while, he took a bath and dried his body, musing that money was the best because it allowed him to make friends with anyone, even if he couldn't talk to them. He received a message that the god felt uncomfortable. Hansu replied that he was uncomfortable too, as he was showering. He asked the god about their gender and received the response that the god was now more uncomfortable. Hansu said he would consider the god a male to protect his dignity. Suddenly, the god was worried. Hansu asked why the god was afraid. The god replied that it was a secret and kept it in their heart. Suddenly, Hansu heard voices coming from outside his room. He shouted that he was bathing, so please wait a moment. Someone from outside replied that they understood. Hansu quickly dressed, feeling alert, and thought that someone he could communicate with was outside the door. They could speak to each other, but the truth was that the person outside was not human, but a hostile race. Hansu realized the person in front of him was not friendly, as he suspected the man could be a monster or part of a hostile race, like gnolls or demons. When the door opened, Hansu sat on the bed, hiding his daggers, and invited the person in. As the door swung open, Hansu was curious to see what kind of monster or person would appear. To his surprise, a human man entered. Hansu asked what was happening, and the chief responded not to worry, explaining that he was the village head. He came to check after receiving a report about a traveler speaking a different language. Hansu observed the chief closely, noting that he looked young for someone in his position. The chief, utilizing his observation blessing, could see Hansu's status window, which made Hansu feel a little uneasy. The chief suggested that Hansu try to hide his status window, but admitted it wouldn't work with someone like him who possessed the observation blessing. The chief then commented that he initially thought Hansu might be a fairy who infiltrated the village, but he believed Hansu must be from a distant land. He explained that the village had a complicated history with the fairies. Having lost their homes due to the fairies' greed, they eventually spilled into human territory. Many people in the village lost their families due to this conflict. The chief revealed that the village was essentially a fortress established by people who banded together for revenge. As a result, there were many mercenaries in the village, and most of the original grievances had faded over time. Meanwhile, the god expressed frustration with Hansu's current situation. The chief explained that the village was full of inexperienced novices who came to gain battle experience. As the chief prepared to leave, he asked Hansu one final question. He showed Hansu a potion and said that since he had eaten dinner earlier, it should have taken effect because it was mixed with a paralyzing potion. However, the potion seemed to have no effect. Hansu, now suspicious, drew a dagger in response. The impressed chief explained that the potion had no effect because Hansu, like the fairies, had a high resistance to potions. He revealed that the potion was a spell designed for situations like this and explained that this potion resistance could not be broken even by something like the invisible rope he possessed. When the chief took the dagger from Hansu, Hansu was shocked. The chief said that Hansu's situation was unfortunate, but it wasn't his fault. The god warned Hansu that they were trying to alert him. Hansu's unease grew as the chief's intentions became clearer. Later, Hansu found himself imprisoned. The chief told him that while the villagers were angry at the gnolls, believing them to be responsible for the loss of their families, the truth was that the gnolls were also victims. The real culprits, according to the chief, were the fairies, who played the two sides against each other by taking the gnolls' land. The chief revealed his own curse, calling it the karma of one who bears the truth. His name is Crimson, and he is level 16. He carried the fairies' curse, which meant he was the sworn enemy of the fairies, and as a result, his lifespan and youth had been shortened. Hansu, confused, asked if the goddess gave such curses. The chief responded that this curse was the result of the accumulated grudges of the fairies he had murdered, comparing it to an honorable scar. Hansu realized that every curse had its own unique condition, and this one was a direct consequence of the chief's actions. When Hansu denied being a fairy or having any particular hatred for them, the chief became more aggressive, placing the dagger near Hansu's head. He told Hansu that he changed his mind after seeing the dagger and asked where he got it. Hansu simply lied, claiming he killed a fairy who shot an arrow at him. He also told the chief that they might have a common enemy, the fairies. Crimson seemed impressed, commenting that Hansu's skills must be remarkable if he truly killed a fairy royal. However, Hansu was unaware the fairy he killed had royal status. Crimson smiled and said that despite Hansu's apparent ignorance, he was in a very precarious situation. Hansu pleaded with the chief to spare his life, but Crimson said it was a pity since Hansu saw his status window. He revealed that he was a mage without the magic blessing, a lone wolf running through the wilderness. Crimson cryptically added that Hansu would never be able to run through the wilderness again. The god, meanwhile, prayed for Hansu's luck in the afterlife. Crimson, demonstrating his own black magic, caused a lady to fall to the ground, placing his foot on her body and stating that he was a dark mage who must sacrifice others to prolong his life. He smiled and explained that even though the fairy's curse might consume him, he could keep fighting it by using sacrifices to extend his life. Crimson told Hansu he would sacrifice him without pain as a reward for worrying about fairy royalty. Hansu, maintaining his composure, smiled and sarcastically replied that the chief was very generous. Despite his seemingly evil intentions, Hansu thought he might be expelled by a god with a rotten personality. But this wasn't the worst part. He could still talk. He addressed the chief as Crimson and asked if he wanted him to beg for his life. Hansu replied that he would not. Crimson urged him to continue, expressing his desire to hear his last words. Meanwhile, something irritated Crimson and he quickly killed them with his rope. Hansu remained terrified and silent afterward. Crimson asked what Hansu wished to say. Instead, Hansu reflected that the chief's actions seemed abnormal. Or perhaps he was showing him all this on purpose with the goal of being recognized as someone on the side of justice. Hansu confessed that it had been a difficult journey without anyone recognizing his efforts. Crimson smiled and acknowledged him, seeming to understand. Hansu responded that it was because he was an outsider. Crimson replied, stating that being an outsider meant being a lone wolf wandering the wilderness. Hansu realized that Crimson was also an outsider. Meanwhile, the god muttered that Crimson was definitely not an outsider. Hansu disagreed, but believed he had managed to empathize with him. Crimson smiled again and confessed that he liked Hansu, declaring that as an outsider, he must remain a lone wolf. Hansu pondered his strange logic, thinking that Crimson initially expressed liking him for the greater good, but now wanted to kill him to preserve his outsider status. Hansu felt angry. Crimson told him that this was a happy day, as he finally met someone who understood his great mission. Hansu thought he had gotten himself into the worst possible situation. He was terrified. After that, some people were hung up with the chain. Crimson observed them, approached a boy, and told him he should come with him since he had been in bad shape lately. The boy said something to him in another language. Crimson replied that his friend needed to keep living and entertain him, so he wouldn't kill her. After that, he threw the boy down. The boy fell into the formation made by Crimson. Crimson began his black magic and called upon his mother for life. He asked her to allow him to have the remaining lifespan of this fairy. The magic circle began to glow. The boy in the process was visibly terrified. Crimson assured him that if he handed himself over, he would reunite him with his partner very soon. He grabbed him by the hair, warning him that he had witnessed the consequences of rejecting his mercy. Meanwhile, Hansu pondered what was happening to the chief. He speculated that the chief grew younger by absorbing the life force of the boy. After a brief pause, Crimson declared that his spell was a success. Hansu responded by saying that Crimson didn't look any younger. Crimson explained that this was because he was not human. He admitted that he didn't sacrifice fairies just to prolong his life, and that he didn't know how many fairies and travelers he had killed. Hansu commented that it was to the point where the fairy curse was strong enough to kill him. Crimson then removed his clothing, revealing something to Hansu. Hansu was intrigued by what he was doing, but was shocked to see that Crimson was a Null. Crimson openly identified himself as a Null. Hansu, filled with fear, wondered if Crimson might be of mixed race. Crimson boasted about the remarkable combination of two races that harbored a deep resentment toward the fairies. He smiled, saying he would soon take revenge using his human intelligence and Null physique. Crimson stated that his dark magic was supreme. Hansu challenged him, asking how he sought revenge by hunting fairies with fairy power. Crimson moved closer to him and told him not to worry about trivial matters. He then proceeded to teach Hansu about outsiders and revealed his true identity. He grabbed Hansu, claiming that he would forget him and take his life to the fullest. Hansu, trying to understand, sarcastically replied that Crimson had been so helpful to him. Hansu then asked if Crimson still wanted to kill him. Crimson replied coldly that it was because Hansu was an outsider. Hansu felt a surge of anger and realized that today he had learned that a truly dangerous outsider exists. He believed this moment was his destined turning point. On the other side, at the temple, Princess Athena Archmason, recognized as the genius of the Archmason magic kingdom, admired the workers. Despite her royal status consuming much of her time, she didn't need to exert herself due to her immense talent. Meanwhile, Yura asked if magic was created through one's imagination and suggested they could increase efficiency if no other methods existed. Despite hearing that a mage's abilities are determined by their lineage and school connections, Yura's dedication to working hard caught Princess Athena's attention. As a result, she decided to make Yura her first apprentice. Princess Athena praised her question and explained that to improve her magic, she must follow the magic of her teachers or parents. She then demonstrated some magic with mice, surprising the heroes. Princess Athena thought that thanks to the inherited talent of their ancestors, members of the Archmacean royal family are able to use exceptional fire magic generation after generation. She then showed them an ice rabbit, her unique magic, and asked if anyone wanted to try it. Everyone enthusiastically agreed, and Yura stepped forward. However, the magic didn't work well for her, and Princess Athena explained that it was because Yura was still getting used to it. She reassured her that with more experience, Yura would be able to do the magic easily. Yura thanked her for the explanation. Suddenly, Miyok spoke up, asking Princess Athena if anyone would want her since she didn't receive a blessing. The other students began to shout that they needed a blessing and complained that Princess Athena was being unfair, treating them all equally. Princess Athena, after thinking for a moment, asked, "Which hero wants to be my second apprentice?" All the heroes shouted in unison that they wanted to be her second apprentice. The students, now anxious, began to plead for her attention. However, with a single sentence from the princess, the alliance collapsed as the students started fighting among themselves. Princess Athena then told them to inform her who wanted to be her second apprentice. Yura asked if this was done intentionally, but Princess Athena seemed confused by the question. Subsequently, Princess Athena concluded the lesson by telling them that unique magic, like her ice rabbit, can only be obtained after countless trial, error, and practice. Yura then interjected, comparing it to black magic. Princess Athena, surprised by the comparison, tried to explain that black magic differed from white magic. Yura asked if it was possible to practice black magic continuously on one's own. Princess Athena, with a worried expression, explained that black magic requires sacrifices every time it is used. Meanwhile, Hansu was tied up within a magic formation created by Crimson, deeply concerned about why he had been captured by this insane man. Crimson, sensing Hansu's hesitation, demanded that he state he would willingly give up his life. Hansu knew that the consent of the sacrifice was essential for black magic, and despite being physically restrained, he knew he did not belong to Crimson. Crimson told him their conversation was over and that Hansu must now declare he would surrender his life. Hansu, fearing for his life, thought of a way out and asked to see Misa one last time before he died. Crimson asked why he sought her, and Hansu replied that she was his lover. Crimson, skeptical, reminded him that Cole was Misa's lover. Hansu, replying truthfully, admitted that Cole was her ex-boyfriend. Crimson demanded proof that Hansu was indeed her lover. Hansu, without hesitation, suggested that Crimson smell his body to confirm Misa's essence. Crimson, after smelling him, acknowledged that the scent was unmistakably Misa's, confirming they must have been lovers. Crimson, thinking that if Misa disappeared, both Gary and Cole would become suspicious, began plotting. Hansu, internally relieved, was impressed by how incredibly cunning Crimson was. Crimson then asked if Hansu had any other wishes. Hansu, seizing the opportunity, asked to be released until he could reunite with Misa, and afterward he promised to declare his surrender. Crimson accepted the deal, and the Null laughed menacingly. Suddenly, Hansu felt an overwhelming dark energy. His body writhed in pain, and he realized Crimson's words about not making him suffer were a lie. Crimson bid him farewell, saying he would tell Misa that Hansu had gone far away. Hansu, remembering that Misa was the one who left first, responded that it would be hard for Crimson to explain that. Crimson was shocked, and at that moment, Hansu moved forward and punched Crimson directly in the face. Crimson boiled with rage, accusing Hansu of having deceived him. Hansu, still defiant, replied that he thought it was Crimson who deceived him, having promised a painless death. Instead, the excruciating pain nearly drove him mad, and he warned that such torment can turn a close ally into a sworn enemy. Crimson was stunned by Hansu's resilience. Hansu, with a cunning smile, promised to tell Crimson everything once he was dead. As the magical restraint lifted, the god reset Hansu's life, and the magic formation dissolved. Crimson, now enraged, snarled in frustration. Hansu, unyielding, reminded him of the deal. If he survived, they were supposed to let him go, and Hansu expected Crimson to keep that promise. With determination, he grabbed a dagger and demanded that Crimson fulfill his part of the bargain. Hansu cut the chain of one of the captive girls, freeing her. The weakened girl was shocked, but Hansu supported her and began to walk away. Crimson stopped him, reminding Hansu of his earlier warning. Hansu, knowing Crimson hadn't hurt him before, reasoned that finding someone who had already died was a futile effort. In a fit of rage, Crimson declared that since Hansu was releasing the lifespan granted to him, the promise was no longer kept. Crimson unleashed his demonic energy and used magic to grab Hansu's legs. Hansu, slightly concerned, braced himself. Crimson expressed his disappointment, telling Hansu it would be wise to give up his hope for a painless death. Hansu, however, smiled, unperturbed, and replied that it was too soon to surrender. Crimson scoffed at Hansu's confidence, but then, without warning, blood spurted from Crimson's mouth. The chief's strength began to wane. Hansu observed the change, realizing that ever since he punched Crimson with dark magic, the chief's powers had been weakening. Crimson, now desperate, demanded to know who Hansu truly was. Hansu, with a defiant smile, replied that he was an apostle of an outsider. As Crimson neared death, Hansu felt a surge of anticipation. He saw this as his chance to acquire experience points by finishing off the level 16 chief. He planned to escape once and for all. He bid farewell to Crimson, but the gnoll that was now manifesting in Crimson's body cursed Hansu, swearing revenge for destroying its dream. Crimson charged toward Hansu in a final attempt to kill him, slashing Hansu's chest with his sharp, fragile nails. Crimson mocked him, stating that this power was not swordsmanship but a special ability he had kept hidden for hunting fairies. Despite the wound, Hansu calmly stated that it was unfortunate but not fatal. To the gnoll's surprise, Hansu's wounds healed quickly. Hansu, unfazed, explained that it was a close call. Crimson, now weakened and drained of strength, tried to flee. However, the girl grabbed his foot, stopping him. Crimson snarled at her to let go. But before he could escape, Hansu appeared and quickly decapitated Crimson. Although Hansu knew this victory was not final, there was still another authority to face. Hansu, having struck the final blow to the gnoll inside Crimson, watched as the gnoll died screaming in pain. Hansu remained unwavering. Dak Hyun, an unseen observer, expressed regret over Crimson's fate. With Crimson's tyranny now crushed, Hansu turned to the many fairies the chief had captured, calling on the villagers to help. With the situation mostly resolved, Hansu withdrew from the area. A month later, Hansu found himself once again wandering the jungle. Without warning, fairies attacked him, forcing him to jump off a cliff to escape. On the other side, a petty fight was taking place at the temple over the mentorship issue, but aspiring master mages arrived in droves. The situation was quickly resolved as countless mages sought the honorable title of the hero's teacher. Princess Athena told the heroes that magic needed to be visualized in their minds, so concentration was important. The heroes were practicing magic by creating a fireball. Suddenly, a student asked Princess Athena about the mathematics of magic. She responded that there were no such rules in magic where mathematics applied. After a while, the student asked the hero if she used addition or subtraction when creating that fireball. She told him that she could use magic because she had a teacher who could create fire easily. The student replied that he didn't believe it because he was sure he could quickly become an archmage with modern knowledge. Suddenly, the masters arrived. One master told Princess Athena that she had incorrectly described something to the heroes. He told the heroes that it was true that mathematics did apply to magic. The heroes were surprised. The master explained that since Princess Athena used a fireball as an example, he would continue with a related explanation. He said that the princess, who had only learned the theory, might not know this, but they had been implementing mathematics to increase the efficiency of magic. Meanwhile, another magic master arrived and showed them a magic ball suspended in the air. The other master told them they needed to avoid unnecessarily wasting mental energy in a war. He said that when they launched the fireball, the angle is critical. He told them they also needed to consider the direction and speed of the wind. Suddenly, an explosion occurred in the air. The boy was happy because he received his answer from the masters. After that, the master told them that practical battle magic would also help the princess. Princess Athena expressed her interest in learning it. After a while, the heroes were with the other mages. Meanwhile, practical magic was being taught by exceptional mages in the field. With the guidance of excellent teachers, the heroes quickly learned magic. Suddenly, a storm occurred. There were fairies sitting in a room. One was injured, and another was applying medicine to her hand. The injured fairy was their prisoner, the handmaiden of Princess Ha. Her comrade apologized, saying the only thing she could do was relieve the pain with medicine. She added that a miracle from a saintess might heal her, but there was no way either of the world's only two saintesses would offer a miracle to a mere fairy, not even one of royal blood. Her comrade prepared to leave and told her to rest easy, as they would surely capture that human. Esupreso thought this might be Crimson's doing, but the villagers who simply stood by could also be accomplices. She cried, thinking that when she returned to the kingdom, she needed to report this village first. Suddenly, someone knocked on the door. Another fairy stood outside the room. Esupreso told her to enter. The fairy entered and told her that the village mercenaries lost the man. Esupreso was a little angry and told her not to worry about the human problem. The girl replied that the man saved him from the evil chief. They were talking about Hansu Kang. Esupreso was furious and told her he had a princess's dagger and was deceiving them. She said that humans are beasts and cannot be trusted. The girl quietly repeated to Esupreso that it was still true that he saved him. Esupreso responded that this was why she remained silent, and that it wasn't as if they had told her to kill him. They were simply beasts tearing each other apart. Suddenly, Counselor Celeblaze arrived and asked Esupreso about what she had said. The other one approached Celeblaze to support her, as she looked ill. Celeblaze is a fairy royal whose name means Holy Sun in the ancient Lang language. Despite her royal heritage, she has infinite life. She was a toy that Chief Crimson valued especially. She was also the one who had been imprisoned in the basement the longest. Celeblaze began to cry and told them that Hansu could have escaped alone, but he freed her. Esupreso told her she knew he was after her eternal life. Celeblaze asked if she knew that her savior used the Dark Magic Pact. Meanwhile, Hansu uses the Pact Breach. Anyone who breaks a pact must return what they took. The chief ended up self-destructing after underestimating Hansu's life force. Esupreso told Celeblaze she remembered when she used to run carefree through the palace, but now it was a distant memory. She cried, "I love him." Celeblaze told her that was why she needed to go and find him. The other fairy told her it was dangerous, as her condition was now worse. After that, Celeblaze left. Meanwhile, the god listened and watched them, then slowly left the scene. After a while, the god arrived in the jungle and approached Hansu. Hansu was a bit stressed because he had fallen from the cliff. Meanwhile, at the temple, Prince Alzus was with the heroes who wished to become swordsmen. The students were surprised to see that they were taking a tea break. Suddenly, he led all the students to the banquet hall. After a while, everyone sat down at the dining table. Prince Alzus told them to toast the heroes who had chosen the path of swordsmen. The knights shouted and cheered. The heroes were scared to see their enthusiastic excitement. After that, Prince Alzus told the students he would show them a simple demonstration to improve their understanding. He asked the commander to join him. The commander agreed and prepared himself. Prince Alzus told them they would first demonstrate the swordsmanship everyone was familiar with. He asked the commander to limit his swordsmanship ability. After that, they began a duel. Prince Alzus attacked the commander while he backed away. Prince Alzus attacked quickly, and the heroes were impressed to see it. Prince Alzus thanked the commander for his sword dance. After that, Prince Alzus said he would now show them the authentic swordsmanship that they would all learn. Some energy was released from Prince Alzus's sword. The commander's sword also released energy. Both prepared for the duel again. They began their second duel, and the light from their energy was intense as it collided in a single strike. The commander's sword broke, and he was defeated. Prince Alzus complimented the commander on his skills. Meanwhile, the heroes were curious about what had just happened. Prince Alzus told them that the power to cut through all of an opponent's defenses in a single blow is called swordsmanship. He advised them to forget about the Demon Lord, because they could not even defeat armored cavalry while using imitation swings. One of the heroes said it seemed like swordsmanship was about seeking efficiency. Prince Alzus told them they had understood, so he would now begin teaching swordsmanship. He told them to take a sip of the tea in front of them. Everyone drank it, but found that it tasted awful. Prince Alzus told them that a warrior's blessing was needed to learn swordsmanship. He explained that the tea was medicine, a practical method for quickly and safely obtaining the blessing. He added that they must get used to the taste. Everyone took their tea. Choi Kangmin drank his and asked for another cup of medicine. Prince Alzus told him it was better to eat some snacks and asked the commander to serve another glass of tea for Choi Kangmin. On the other side, in the jungle, the god and Hansu were sitting in a tree. Hansu thought that this time there had been no hay to lessen the impact. He was relieved that there was a forest right below the cliff. He believed the mercenaries who persistently pursued him had left the village. He thought he would have been helpless if the bribed guard hadn't opened the village gate. Suddenly, some gnolls arrived and saw Hansu in the tree. Hansu observed them as they greeted him warmly. He found it ironic that he trusted the gnolls more than the humans or fairies. He then jumped to the ground and killed the gnolls with a single blow. Hansu said it was easy, as there were only 3 gnolls. He told the god that his body seemed to have become more graceful than before and felt curious about it. He checked his status window but noticed nothing changed. Suddenly, he noticed that the dividend was now 3.43. He asked the god what it meant. The god smiled and advised him that the higher it was, the better it would be. Hansu gave him a strange look, thinking that for the first time he was hearing something valuable from the god. Meanwhile, one of the gnolls was still alive. Hansu approached him and said he wanted to ask something. He told him he was quite angry at the fairies. The gnoll was happy to hear about the fairies because he wanted to eat them. Hansu thought the solution he found was the gnoll's swordsmanship. He believed he was too weak to take revenge on the goddess, even if he reached level 2, so he decided it was best to imitate the style of swordsmanship that only gnolls can utilize. As the chief said, it would at least make him stronger than he was now. After that, he asked the gnoll about its red eyes and the power of the flesh. Hansu wanted to see the power of the flesh. He believed gnoll swordsmanship was the power of the flesh, but the information he had was not sufficient. He said he must investigate the gnoll's ecosystem to ensure his revenge went smoothly. On the other side, in the dining hall, Prince Alzis told the heroes that talent was needed for magic, but anyone could learn swordsmanship if they had the time and money. Meanwhile, the heroes needed to catch up with this lesson. Suddenly, Choi Kong-min asked for another cup of medicine. Prince Alzis told him to stop drinking for the day because efficiency could be reduced if he drank too much. Choi thought he needed to get stronger as fast as possible because he was different from the others. Prince Alzis approached him and advised him that it was better to cleanse his mouth with some honey tea. He told him that consistency was essential and that drinking 1 cup a day or even 2 was fine. If he became greedy, it could be counterproductive. Choi smiled and replied that 2 cups a day would benefit him. After that, Prince Alzis explained that the warrior's blessing would not settle quickly, just as a baby cannot become an adult overnight. Choi seemed surprised to hear this, but suddenly received a blessing called Valiant. The blessing meant that Choi would grow stronger and more powerful the longer he fought, but the effect would reset if he was defeated or if his will to fight was broken. Choi was surprised but happy. Prince Alzis complimented him, saying he now had high expectations for him since he had received the blessing of the god of battle. Choi replied that he was flattered. After that, Prince Alzis told them he would show them how to hide their status window. On the other side, a gnoll named Fang was eating his prey in the jungle. Hansu was observing him. A couple of days had passed since he began following the gnolls to observe the power of the flesh. Suddenly, Fang noticed him and lunged forward to attack. Hansu saved himself and realized that the gnoll would try to hunt him whenever it got a chance. After defeating Fang, Hansu noted that he still felt too weak. Hansu checked Fang's status window and found that his name was Fang and he was level 6. Hansu asked him if he was really a level 6 player. Fang responded by flexing his biceps and proudly saying, "Fairy flesh," as an explanation. Hansu realized that Fang was referring to eating fairy meat, which supposedly grants power. He asked Fang why he was still weak despite having hunted 2 fairies. Fang became sad and insisted he was strong. Hansu hit him again. Over time, Hansu began to learn about the gnoll's characteristics. Fang told him the direction to the fairy village where Hansu was ambushed before. Hansu started to confirm that the chief's claims were not delusional, but true. While traveling, Hansu caught a rabbit and ate it. He noted that the gnoll's body also started to change. Fang's strength increased every time he ate. Hansu thought this method was simpler than the chief's dark magic, which stole life force, although its effectiveness was reduced. After eating the rabbit, Hansu asked Fang if he was now satisfied. Fang began to growl. He said he wanted more flesh, and his eyes turned red. He charged at Hansu again. Hansu punched him with all his strength and realized that Fang's behavior revealed the power of the flesh. With this new understanding, Hansu attacked Fang again, slicing his body in 2 with all his might. Hansu felt confident and thanked Fang for helping him learn. As he approached Fang's remains, Fang mumbled that Hansu was also a gnoll. Hansu denied it, believing he was human, but noticed that his hands were releasing red energy and his body felt changed. Hansu realized that the chemical reaction was driven by intense emotions and the gnoll's greed for meat. The god, who was observing, was surprised and told Hansu that this was the power of the flesh. Hansu responded that he doubted anyone could use it. He asked the god if he would have died using the strength derived from a depleted life force if he did not have the outsider's blessing. The god explained that the blessing reset after every meal, creating an infinite cycle of replenishment. Later that night, Hansu and the god wandered the jungle. The gnolls smelled meat nearby. But before anything happened, Hansu appeared and struck the gnolls with a single blow, defeating them effortlessly. The god was surprised by Hansu's strength. Hansu ran forward, thinking that even though he had become stronger, he felt unhappy. The god guided him in the direction they needed to go. When they arrived at the fairy village, Hansu laughed and said he would punish those fantasy barbarians with the power of fantasy. Guards were stationed outside the village. Hansu thought about sneaking through the back tunnel, but security was tighter than expected. However, he felt satisfied because he had memorized the village blueprint beforehand. Meanwhile, the god urged him to act now. Hansu was curious why the god was suddenly trying to be helpful, but his instincts told him the same thing. He ran toward the village wall and scaled it using his dagger. Once inside the village, he was relieved that no one was watching him. He planned his next move carefully. After a while, a guard appeared. Hansu grabbed him from behind and put a knife to his neck. He killed the guard and dragged the body aside. Hansu reflected that these people probably had others who would mourn their deaths, but he also had a family. He regretted that he almost died without seeing his parents again because of these individuals. Determined, he promised not to let them walk all over him anymore. Meanwhile, the god watched him with provocation. One by one, Hansu took out several guards and gathered their bodies in a single place. He muttered to himself that the infiltration was fun, but so far, he had only encountered mercenaries. He wondered how he would find the fairies. He reasoned that both fairies and humans would need to use the bathroom, but he wondered why he hadn't seen any fairies yet. The god scoffed at Hansu's delayed realization. Hansu, feeling bad, suddenly heard voices. Some humans had captured the fairies. Hansu found this development exciting. On the other side, Esupresso had been kidnapped by some men and was being taken to the basement. Esupresso's mind was filled with multiple thoughts. Suddenly, she heard a woman's voice saying that Crimson believed they were ignorant of his actions, but they ignored him because they wanted to protect their new way of life. Esupresso recognized the voice as belonging to the healer from before. The healer told the other fairies that this situation was their retribution for letting their dear friend fight this battle alone. Meanwhile, a boy told his companion that he heard in the cafeteria that the fairies despised humans. A bald man intervened and said something had happened in the village. A lady with blue hair instructed her men to begin. The men advanced with daggers, intending to kill the fairies in Crimson's name. The bald man killed Esupresso. After a while, they killed more fairies until only Celeblaze remained. She was bound with ropes. Celeblaze told them their goal would be complete if they killed her, but she warned them that killing her savior to keep their secret filled her with anger. The boy suggested that they let Celeblaze go if she agreed to keep their secret. Celeblaze responded angrily that she couldn't believe an agreement based on threats could hold. The blue-haired lady replied that even if Celeblaze lied, they would let her go. Celeblaze smiled and took the opportunity to mock them, saying they should learn that fairies do not lie to save their own lives. The frustrated captors decided they had no choice and prepared to kill her, promising it would be as painless as possible. Suddenly, Hansu appeared, quickly killed the man about to execute Celeblaze, and saved her. Celeblaze was surprised to see him there. Hansu told Celeblaze that they had met again, but first, he needed to take care of the remaining enemies. Hansu ran toward the attackers and killed them. He thought that whether they were fairies or villagers who sided with the village chief, he had planned to destroy them from the start. A scared girl pleaded with Hansu to spare her. Hansu understood her language, but he believed it would be unfortunate to let her go. He killed her too. Meanwhile, the blue-haired lady was running away, but Hansu noticed her. Suddenly, he threw his dagger, hitting her and killing her. Hansu thought it was smart to take care of that bulky guy first. Suddenly, Celeblaze began to say something, but Hansu ignored her. Curiously, he checked her status window and was shocked. She was level 12. He had never seen another person's status window before and wondered if she showed it to him on purpose. Hansu noted that Celeblaze had 3 blessings, all high rank. One of her blessings was Tamer, which slightly improves the abilities of animals someone has tamed. Hansu thought that although this blessing was high rank, it would be useless without animals. He suspected there was only one reason why she would deliberately show him her status window. Hansu said Celeblaze's name. She smiled at him upon hearing this. Hansu could understand her, probably because of the outsider's blessing. Meanwhile, the god was angry at Hansu. Hansu sat down and commented that he knew he wouldn't remain an outsider if he was punished. Celeblaze seemed surprised by his words.